Okay, so welcome to the conversation, folks. We are not going to be long here, as I was explaining. We did get some apologies um, for some folks. So we know that there are some challenges that are there, but we want to canvas just some thoughts on this topic, basically trying to look at for the last couple of for the next couple of sessions last week, going into the next two, we're really looking at gender-based issues, and of course how these gender-based issues are affecting us directly, both within and outside of the church. So I really want us to give a little thought to what is happening in our household, particularly in this pandemic, because of, from the absence of the opportunity for child care, and yet still, of course, women have to work, men have to work as well, and of course the changing social landscape that it's creating some challenges, but I want to canvas your thoughts on it. So as usual, before we go any further, welcome again to Agape's Faith and Family Conversation. Leonard Smith is my name, and I'm your host. And I'd like to quickly just ask you to introduce yourselves, just so that persons are comfortable sharing in the conversation. So I see a Zoom user name here. Don't know who that is. So you want to introduce yourself. Just say your name, where you worship, and or where you work. And then we move to the next person. I see your mic is open, so you can go ahead.
God bless, Rev.
Oh, Rev, that's you. All right.
Yeah, that's me. That's me here.
All right. So yeah, so introduce yourself for those folks who, let me see if there's anybody here who would not know you. I don't know, but you're just say your name, Rev, and where you are worshiping, sir.
Pastor Wong, yeah. John Wong, Tri-City Tabernacle.
Oh, God bless you, Rev. God bless you. Sir Andrew.
Greetings and blessings, everybody. I'm Andrew Barnett, right? Faith Apostolic Ministries.
All right. I see an iPhone there, so that maybe you, Sir Finn, just introduce yourself. All right, going once, going twice. All right, we move to you, Lady Mel.
Good night, everyone. My name is Melissa Divini, worship at Grace Workshop, and also a part of Agape Ministry.
All right, Lady Sherrianne.
Good night, everyone. I'm Sherrianne Wilson. I am from Emmanuel Apostolic.
Okay, so these are who are here for now, and so we're just going to have the conversation. So, last week we were trying to look at the subject of male marginalization, and one of the issues, of course, that would have come out was I think there was a consensus that yes, there is in fact an imbalance between men and women in church, and of course and not just in church, but also when it comes to the home, there is also that imbalance. And of course we identify the crisis in particular in the home, with the absence of men that are there. One of the issues, of course, that also creates, is if the men are not there, and then women, of course, are now having to work and, moving more and more into the workforce. The question could be asked, is there a crisis in the home? Is there a crisis in the home because of what we discussed last week, but also for this week, because of course, the changing role of women in society. And we believe that there is, for those of us, of course, who are faithful, we believe that there is in fact a biblical model for the home, and there's a biblical culture for the home. But we know that the world does not really have that as their standard. And so we see digression, and we also see in fellowships, it affecting the community, the Christian community, the church communities as well. And it creates problems with discipleship. I'm putting that out there, but it's not going to be a conversation. So you can agree with me or disagree that it does create a problem with discipleship when people are not coping, and if they're not fitting into what they see God's design is for their lives. And so we're focusing this week on women in society and the changing role. And if that combined with the men being marginalized is creating an imbalance or a crisis in the home. I'm going to take a quick run back here to just a chart that I found last week, a quick run back to the conversation that we had last week, just to kind of indicate the American statistics in terms of males being in the church. And this study basically was focusing on males, eligible males, meaning males who are single and available for marriage within the churches, and it tried to track it with various groups. And so you kind of give an indication. So to understand this chart, all it says is potentially eligible men per 100 women by religious groups. So any number below 100, so if you're able to see my mouse, any bar below 100, it means that there are more women than men within those congregations, right? And so, for example, the evangelical Protestant group, this looks like a closer to like 90%, so only like a 10% difference. Same thing for close to this other Protestant group, close to 90, probably 85%. But I did make an attempt to circle this group, which is the historically Black Protestants. So this is Black churches within the US. And you can see they are way down, way below the 50%. So they are about 60%. They are about 60% deficient a gap between men and women within Black churches. And you can see the comparison. I was making the point that among other groups like the Jewish groups, Muslim groups, there are some other Christian groups that are doing way better than the traditional groups, having a lot more men than women. The study didn't flesh out which groups these were specifically, but it just gives us an idea for those who are participating in the conversation that there in some group there is a significant challenge, particularly in Black groups. And I will just add in closing on this point that the reason why they had put forward that the Black groups are so low is because of economic factors, unemployment, socioeconomic factors in general is what they ascribe this particular group to, this deficiency in church to. And what implication of that for us, I believe, is that socioeconomic issues affect church attendance. Church socioeconomic issues affect people's relationship with God, and men's relationship with God disproportionately from women. And so in our evangelism efforts, in our discipleship efforts, we probably need to reflect on that thought of what, if we need to be more attentive to trying to address this kind of identity crisis in terms of men not working, and so they're not serving God because they're not working. And so that's something to reflect on. I don't know if anybody want to add any thought to that particular point that I'm making before we venture into tonight's conversation, the whole issue of what do you think of the fact that socioeconomic issues by this study with this particular Protestant group, with Protestant groups in general, Black Protestant groups, affects people's Black men's coming into church and the implications for us discipleship. Rev, you want to chime in on that statistic? Do we have a need to, or see a need to you know, deal with men in that, you know, in that way, so that they can be overcome this not coming to church because of not working and socioeconomic issues?
Here in North America is somewhat different.
Right.
Gonna be country to country because of the culture, because of
right.
The whole aspect. But in a North America setting, in God we trust is what rule. The dollar, almighty dollar.
Okay.
And if you don't have that, then you're not connected. You are not seen as a person.
Yes.
Because people that are homeless, when you look on it, there are more Black men that are homeless than any in terms of the race in America. You might have more white people on the street homeless, but when you compare it in terms of the population against the Black population, then you find out it is a really extreme high. And it's a wide area because you have so many things that affect them from a social background.
Yes.
The drug is one.
The what is one? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Drugs.
Drugs, okay.
Yeah, so it's not, some cannot find job, but they cannot make a job because of their drug addiction.
Right.
You have those that are involved in the illicit sale of that drugs.
Right.
So he's trying to break the economic barrier.
Right.
Not talk about the law now. He's trying to upward mobility by illegal means.
Yes.
So while one is an addiction and it keep him out, one making money and he know it's not right, so that keep him out also. And then there is a set, sorry to say, systemic racism in the society that marginalize these. And it's also taught to the Black woman, whether she aware of it or not.
Yes.
And so she herself marginalized him.
Right.
Front in terms of the professional Black woman, when she your counterpart male is a white or majority white or Asian.
Yes.
And so for this reason, when she don't see her Black man on the other side of the decks, then she begin to think that they are no good low down, and the name given, they are just dogs. All they want to have is baby mamas. And so they don't want to be in, involved with touch because that individual is considered a risk factor. So that the men now look to these corporate women and figure more or less, they think that they are all that and a bag of chips. They are on the top of the food chain and looking down at them. So for that reason, that exclude him from the church, because the church, some of them, not all, but majority of the successful, when I say successful, understand financially I'm talking.
Right.
Women, they attend and they do go to their church, sorry to say it this way, but they're Black church, and they don't find any man inside there.
Right.
And that reason, they are angry with them.
Right.
Whether they are aware of it or not, because they consider them, for lack of a better word, losers.
Yeah.
So when they look and to make what you would call, how should I put it? I can't say advance because they are the woman, is the man that advance, although it is the other way around some places these days. But a suitable partner, not to be found. Because, when she look across, Paul is a janitor. When she look there, the other is a custodian. And nothing wrong with these jobs.
Right.
Yeah. But they feel more or less that they have achieved so much to go back so low.
Yes, yeah. So it's right. So that does establish then again men being marginalized in, I mean, particularly Black men being marginalized in a particular way, and of course that is happening, and that is affecting. To me, the critical point that it is affecting men's relationship with God, or men's pursuing a relationship with God. And you know, if we have an idea within the church community based on what exists out there, what are some of the factors that create this disproportion? So I'm looking at it from an evangelistic perspective, recognizing that, right, the gender role issues and the various, you know, the socioeconomic issues are there. Can we be more intentional in our evangelistic effort towards men in addressing this discrepancy, you know, reaffirming their identity, not necessarily being connected to their pockets, affirming that their identity is not connected to their jobs, and them being male, for example, you know, is associated with reflecting the image of God and the, you know, the leadership of God and the work of God. You know, I'm just trying to say, if we as a church, as churches, and anybody that's contributing could look at, okay, well, we know that particularly for evangelizing men, we probably need to target this particular area a little bit more and this particular area a little bit more, because we look like we're underserving men in our evangelism effort. Is that the case? Could we be underserving men in our evangelism effort by not looking at some of these issues more intentionally? And can we probably in the future, you know, prayerfully consider being more intentional towards our men, to help them to overcome or to address some of these deficiencies when it comes to their relationship with God? Anyone? Going once, going twice? Okay. My thoughts are, if no one had that, is that we probably could, you know, be a little bit more intentional towards men in helping them to overcome or to deal with the identity crisis, because the world is changing, and so we, you know, they need to recognize that they don't need to do that. They don't need to allow the changing world to affect, you know, their self-esteem, as you're saying, Rev, in terms of how women are condescending to them because they don't have the high-profile jobs, affect their identity as men, and of course, does, you know, help them to still connect with God in spite of the changing world around them. Maybe we could be a little bit more intentional. That's my thought. But more on that topic. Let's try to get back to. Oh, Sir Barnett, you wanted a comment?
Yeah. Before we move on, I wanted to. I don't know if the study points it out, but I remember last week I was alluding, even without knowledge of the study, I was alluding to the socio-economic aspect that results in more men just not wanting to be at church because we're in a guys busy trying to earn a living. But I wonder, I said, what do they consider in terms of eligibility? Is it a case where, okay, so do you match my financial prowess? Is that what they're measuring the eligibility?
Oh, no. Oh, no. In the study, they just ruled out the married men. So eligibility is men in church who are available for marriage. That's the only criteria for eligibility. So all the numbers that you're looking at here are statistics of men who are single.
Want to get right. So yeah. Okay, I was wondering what was that, but you know, I'm not knowledgeable as to other groups and what they do there. But you know, I often wonder, is it possible in the world evangelism first in the way in terms of the way we do church? Can we as a church put programs in place to encourage men to be more, not just entrepreneurial, but to plan more in terms of their finances, organizing their finances, earning more, that kind of thing. And I remember, and Pastor on this answer, greetings, Sir Wang. I remember, you know, we had men's group meeting at Faith Chapel. All right. I remember one Pastor Wang, so you brought in, I think somebody, an investor from one of those investment companies to come and talk to me about investing. All right. Yes. So we have to do more things like this to get our men to be more enterprising. All right. To get men to understand that, okay, then listen, it's all good and well to come to church, and that's good, but you have to have that balance. All right. So how do you go about looking about your finances? All right. Because I mean, I have 2 daughters, and I mean, they're very young now, oldest being 40. And I'm not going to go and tell my daughter, okay, go and get married to this guy because he can prophesy. But financially, he shows no interest of getting some amount of financial stability. All right. Or anything like that. So yes, he's at church all the while, but I mean, what's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? Or do you plan to sustain a family in the future, that kind of thing? All right. So if that component is missing altogether, then I would encourage them to look elsewhere. And so I'd love if as a church we start to include more of those. Not just the men, but I mean women too. But given that the issues with the men, because women are seemingly are more financially stable. All right, maybe if we can put that there, maybe we could even end up attracting more than just the simply female approach to evangelism. You know, we're trying to get persons in an emotional high, and hope that the emotional high will cause them to start to cry, and then they'll come to the altar. And it doesn't work for the men. I don't know. That's so I probably try to get them to understand. Okay, let's say it's a complete thing. It's not just the spiritual side of thing, but you're a complete human being, and the church has to cater to the total man.
That's so. Here you, Sir Andrew. So the church should be a little bit more intentional towards, again, where the men are perceived to be falling short in terms of the expectations that are had of them. And as you say, one of those areas is, you know, empowering them in economically, and, you know, in ways that they can, you know, be able to take care of family. So I hear you, Sir Andrew. Any other comments before we try to turn to the women? You know, so the men, of course, they have their challenges. Women know, of course, their role is shifting.
Before you go on, Red.
Yes.
Brother Andrew said something that I wouldn't mind.
Yes.
This was 1968, and I have privilege based on the fact that this is Pastor Grizzle I'm talking about, and George McKenzie, and George McKenzie, who's the proprietor to Photoshop.
Yes.
And majority of the saints might know. Okay. Both men, we were having a conversation, and it's more than once. Different place in Jamaica, here in the United States. And while we were having this conversation, George McKenzie said that he was working 1 guinea, which is £1, 1 shilling.
Okay.
At the time. But he liked a person in terms of a sister, but he didn't. The intellectual, I shouldn't say intellectual, I should say academic qualification for compatibility. Pastor Gus said, you lucky, you was working 1 guinea. I was only working 12 shilling. So both men said that the woman wouldn't look their way or look at that. And I don't want to specify no names or anything, except 2 gentlemen. The woman that they call, they wouldn't look his way because the statement that was issued, they have to be working £5 to be qualified.
Okay.
And that qualification they never have. They admit, and it's a hard thing, it takes courage for a man to admit, to say that they feel so inferior to these women. So they back off. Not settling for less, the wife that they choose. Both end up choosing sister, whether by coincidence or by divine will. But these two sisters would have these two men. Well, we know the success that end up later of both gentlemen, from both ministry and from a financial standpoint, with Rizzo. Now, it so happened that some aspect of it turned around. Both of us was in New York. That's me and Pastor Grisso. We were at one of the most prestigious buildings on the planet. And the individual that he liked, still faithful to God, everything. It so happened that the encounter was there. And just looking, you could see the chemistry. You understand me? Looking and seeing this chemistry unveil after 40 years. You understand me? Because now is in the 80s, you know. Right. And you're seeing it unveiling now at this particular time and season. It makes you wonder. But this is going on, and that individual is still here unmarried. So I put it forward. It is a culture within the body of Christ. And it didn't just happen yesterday. And that's why I give it a historical perspective.
Sure.
That we can understand even the statistic that you have, it has to do with what happened in South Africa. And they would not maybe give you all of this. Because for Black man, there's a mistrust of the white man. And I'm not being racist here, believe me. I'm just laying out what happened. Because when the missionary came to South Africa and elsewhere in Africa, they traveled the country. And one of the things that they have, which is just coming to light, well, I should not say just, but it's more profound to others now. Is that these missionaries did geography and they drew map and they know where the minerals were and what to expect. And they would hand over this, because it was missionary that give Cecil Rhodes, who would have the country of Rhodesia, South Africa, apartheid, and all of these things. So the American counterpart male that are educated now, they having knowledge of this, begin to see mistrust more in terms of the white man, but not so much the white man, because they didn't trust him even from here in America. But the word of God, because of who did what and sold out, as it were, Black men and the country. And that was after the slave trade. So they say the slave trade come, then this came after, and it's a means to subjugate the Black man. So even those that travel from the colonies back to, quote unquote, UK, motherland, Mother England, and when they study and they even have Rhodes Scholars, they recognize that there were certain things that were amiss. So they come back, even as they had left with a strong religious conviction, don't know, return with less of a conviction because of what religion have done to the Black man.
Right.
And I'm talking religion, okay? The other aspect that I will address, what Brother Andrew said. I remember when I bring Mr. Carter to Faith Chapel, and this was like 2 years before Cash Plus ever exists. If I right name, that big crash that they had in Jamaica. Cash Plus, I think it was his name. Try to let them understand, what was it, trying to educate how to make your money work for you and not work for money. is a difference. If you
Right.
work for money, a slave of money.
Right.
But if you work for you, then
Yes.
money is for you.
Right, right.
That just simple equation I was trying to bring across, but they wouldn't grasp it. And after that, I won't call anybody, but many a saint came to me and said, if I'd listened to you.
Mm. Yeah.
Our young Black man doesn't want to go through that route.
Mm-hmm.
Building wealth is a process. It don't come overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Achievement is a process. It don't come overnight.
Mm-hmm.
80% of women in law school, some years ago, was in Jamaica, 80%. I understand it's more than that now.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the men them young men want to DJ and to become the next Buju Banton.
Mm-hmm.
When in my days it was Shabba Ranks and Big Youth,
Mm-hmm.
in that part. I'm not following it all now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing here. It's rapper. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to be a rapper. Everybody wants to be an NBA star.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to be, and it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
For everyone, that 125,000 fail here in America. That's it, Trev.
Yeah. So it is good. It is good. That we, when we kind of look and have an idea again of what is accounting for these discrepancies and what is the attitude of men both outside, because it's the outside men that we are targeting and we're seeking to evangelize. And of course, when they come in, the discrepancy in terms of how to effectively disciple men so that, again, they are restored into the image that God had created and the design that God had. So I think the next phase for us is accepting the reality that there are different needs, evangelistic needs and discipleship needs of men as opposed to women, and begin to be intentional in targeting these different needs in these particular areas so that, we can bring up the balance. Now, the study did say that it did not like that because in society they are not exactly equal. So the goal is not equality, but as we look at the Protestant numbers, of course, they are up in the 80s and 90s, and these are likely white married men or white men who are in, financially well-off families or financially sustainable families. We need to, as a church, begin to target these needs in these men. The culture of get rich quick and wanting to get into music before, and as opposed to the biblical model of, learning to be disciplined, and focusing your effort and of course working and building character in the process. These will probably need to talk a little bit more on these things to these young men so that they can then see themselves in church and not be lost over there trying to get rich quick. So I think that's the way that we would need to go as far as our men is concerned. But the question is, well, so no, not but the question. So laying that one to rest, how do we chip in with the women in terms of, okay, they are filling in the gap. They have to, because it just so happened that when in the gender role, there is no way that the men will be able to substitute the women for the role that God has designed them to. They are the caregivers in terms of bearing children. And then subsequent to that, they have this the design, of course, for nurture, but they also have to do all of that, and then, of course, care for the children in the home. And the fact that I had posted here was taken from a study that said working women with children under 5 are those who find balancing work and family more difficult, particularly during COVID. So, what do we say? Is this causing a crisis in the home? Men of course, having their struggles, and women now having to struggling to balance work and home. Is this, I mean, do we foresee a challenge with the next, you know, the generation coming, because they are simply not getting the kind of attention that is needed, the kind of care that is needed? Let me canvass your thoughts on that. Is there a crisis in the home? Or are, you know, are the women in fact coping, and there are women in the group here, single mothers as well, are women actually coping and, you know, believe that their, you know, their children will, you know, somehow manage to survive the shifting roles of men and women? Let me start with a female on this. Lady Shan, I see you have joined us. Just give me your personal feel, because of course you're a mom, of course you have both kids at the home. You know, are you coping, particularly in COVID, in your unique circumstance, or is there a crisis in your opinion? See if Lady Shan is hearing me, going once, going twice, before I move to the next single person in the group, which would be Lady Sherian. I see you're here. If you're hearing us, what I want to get what the feeling of the women. Are you coping, you know, particularly in COVID here, you know, how, you know, with, of course, you're, you know, in the workforce now, but of course you have, you know, you have a child. How is it? Are you finding the balance? Or, you know, and do you foresee a crisis, if not for yourself, for other women who, you know, single mothers, as well?
All right. So for me, I can start from my perspective. I have a 5-year-old, as you just mentioned. And, you know, since the start of COVID, of course, from I heard that, hey, COVID is in Jamaica, my first intuition is, hey, we're pulling Kai from school. I don't want this to reach him.
Okay.
I don't want this to reach us. So So before they even made it public that schools will be closed, Kai was out of school.
Yeah.
In terms of how I'm managing now, unfortunately, my job is not of such where I can work from home. So to be honest, it's been hard for me.
Yes.
To work.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm still having to leave him somewhere. Now, the person who is taking care of him is someone who has a few other kids there as well. Of course, I'm trying to limit all interactions. But this is what she does. It's a small group.
Yes.
But, you know, I mean, to be honest, I really didn't have any other option.
Okay.
In my household, everyone is working outside. So, you know, it's been hard, to be honest. It's been very hard for me, particularly because my son really does not do well with online school. And we have to be finding options and trying to go around and trying to find ways. And it can be a little frustrating when you're going around in circles, it feels like, trying to get the perfect opportunity for him outside of course, you know, face to face. So it's for me, I can testify to the fact that it's it. Of recent times, I've had to make a decision, considering that I'm now no longer mobile.
Okay.
I mean, in due time, I'll get my vehicle again, but for now, it's a case where I have to make other arrangements for him. So during the week, he's now at the babysitter because it's hard to go back and forth. It's just a mess. Yeah. So I can testify to the fact that it's not easy.
Okay, so it's definitely difficult as this fact here is pointing out. And I noticed that you mentioned something, you know, like, well, it's almost a sense of, boy, well, make do, you know, what to do, you don't really have a choice, so we just have to just do with this. You know, and to my mind, that, you know, seemed to be, I'm wondering how many, how many homes are having to, because again of the change in roles, and of course COVID has exacerbated, are having to make do. And how is this impacting on our communities moving forward? Any other ladies in the group want to comment on this situation with the home, being the female in the home having to work, or otherwise having the almost full responsibility for caregiving, and how difficult is it? And is there a potential crisis? If not for you, do you see a potential crisis emerging for our children coming up? Anybody else feel I wanted to comment on that thought?
Sir, I want to comment. Yes, it has been challenging. Especially for Zane, she's 2 years old, but she's going to school now, so she's going face to face. But they only keep them for maybe like 4 hours. So when I look after her in the morning, send her off to school, and then she come back in the afternoon, because I have to be back and forth. Where some days I'm in office, some days I have to work at home. So when I'm in office, when she come home in the evening, she will stay with my mom until I'm back. Then if I'm at home, it's kind of a little bit challenging, because when she comes home like in the midday, like 12:30, 12:45, and that time I'm still working. And she will come around and she will say things and kind of distract me sometimes. But it has really been challenging for me, I must say that, because she's like a child like this, always asking questions, always want the attention and all of that. So it has really been challenging, but I'm trying to cope. And then again, when you finish all of that, you have to try and be doing the other duties, because you get homework. So you have to ensure that you help her with the homework. You have to ensure that you have to go through the book with her. So it has been challenging for me.
Yeah. I can imagine. And what is like, and I want you to kind of bring your faith into the picture, because again, this is society, this is a broken world, bearing pressure on on even the church, even Christian families. And then I'm looking at it from a pastoral perspective, from a discipleship perspective, that there's an expectation, of course, that we have our daily devotions, that women also serve God, part of ministry, give do those things, practice those kind of disciplines that keep us in tune with God, but yet still so we have that expectation probably as elders. But of course the expectation is also out there that your children are demanding these of you, and we're probably not seeing people, whether it is that they're not growing as well as they could in church, whether the children are now being left to social media to be raised, because outside of the day-to-day kind of answering the question that children ask, and kind of trying to find the kind of a resource to kind of guide them in the same way, there's a risk that they're left up to what others are putting inside of them and what social media is. And then again, what at the end of the day, isn't there a risk of some of these folks just simply not ending up staying in church if they come in church? Because again of the potential problem with the changing roles. Do we see that issue emerging, where children are now not being nurtured in the way that we would like? I mean, I see my sister here with Gabriel, and it is a challenge, a constant challenge with the online access, because these children, of course, they live on the technology as if they came out of the womb with a tablet or and of course it is difficult to be with them all the time, to filter what is coming out. Do we see that this is going to be an emerging issue where children literally are disconnected from God? God is no longer a part of their conversation. And, where do we go, or how do we correct this particular challenge within the church? That's really where I'm going. If this is a challenge, what is the challenge? How do we correct it? Do we foresee anybody can comment on the whole issue of, you know, kids just being left up to social media, being left up to YouTube children, and of course the influence of that because of the difficulty that, you know, men are not there, women are, you know, are busy trying to just make ends meet and have to settle for what is there. Do we see that challenge? Lady Shan, if you're hearing us now, any comments on that? Any of the ladies, and I'm talking the ladies first of all before I get back to some of the men. Do you see this emerging problem even in your home, if not in the homes of, you know, those other single mothers that you know?
I can say, for me personally, I am. What you have raised is a very, very valid point. My concern, of course, is, so let me kind of give you a backdrop and then I tell you why my concern is the way it is. Up to recently, I was doing schooling, in addition to working and dealing with my son. His father is not in Jamaica, so it's not like there's a time I could say, oh, could you keep him? And I kind of have some time to myself. I did not have that.
Right.
So, you know, having to do all of that. And on top of that, I mean, truth be told, when I come in the evenings, so before he went to the daycare persons to stay, I would have him in the evenings. And it was, to be honest, so much easier to just give him a tablet and say to him, just relax, watch this.
Yes.
You know, it's a lot easier to just give him the tablet, give him the phone, something, put it on YouTube, put it on some game or whatever it is, and have him watch that. But I start to have concern because for me, I don't like the fact, I don't like when kids are all up in screen time and it's all about, I mean, if you check it out sometimes, even how they speak, you realize they're not very much in touch with reality sometimes. And they start to adopt a lot of the things that you see on TV. I hear my son start to say, Mommy, I'm scared. Kai, why are you scared? And this is what he's watching. And, you know, these are the videos. So for me, you know, there are concerns there. I see where they're interjecting. They're trying to introduce a lot of, you know, bisexual, homosexual, this sexual, that sexual content into the innocent videos. And these videos that you would just normally let him just watch.
Right.
But for me though, I have to literally be watching what he watches. So even if I'm not constantly looking, there are times I'm like, hi, let me see what you're watching.
Yes.
Can I finish my point in about 2 minutes, please?
Sure. Yeah, but the point is well made. I mean, she made the point well, I think, already. You know, that does occur, and you know, we basically are leaving the rearing of children to media, to external sources, and of course, I foresee where that easily can create a problem even within the church. You know, again, where there is a difficulty with getting the culture of children, of course, to be in church and to connect, because they're just easily distracted. Their attention span is so short, etc., etc. So there is definitely there definitely appears to be a challenge. Rev, Sir Andrew, any comments on this particular point, the changing role of women in society, and you know, is it creating, well, it definitely, based on what I'm hearing from the lady, that it is a difficulty. It does appear that you know, many women, even in church, are settling in terms of, well, you know, with how their children are raised, as opposed to probably other jurisdictions where, you know, family support is there, and you know, there is that balance between man and woman in the home, and so children are getting that attentive kind of attention. That crisis is evident, it seems, in the church as well. So there's a difficulty. Is there? Does it go further to say if there's a crisis? What are any thoughts on this particular point? Let me start, Sir Andrew. Let me start with you. Any any concerns, any thought, let me see, are on this particular point?
Well, well, is there a crisis? And I teach.
Mm-hmm.
I work in the high school setting.
Okay.
And so I have had the opportunity over the years to interact with, I mean, many parents.
Right.
And what I've found, what I've observed is that the students, especially the males,
mm-hmm.
that are not doing so well in school, some of them, quite frankly, are not just failing, but they're, I mean, if you should go by how they conduct themselves, you say, well, they're a budding criminal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Most of these are in homes that are headed by a female.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It was just this evening I was listening to an interview on Nationwide, and Cliff was speaking to a female, Diana. I'm not sure if it's Diana McCauley. It sounds like Diana McCauley. I just said Diana. But she met the young man that was killed recently, Christopher Linton Darkwa.
Oh, I think that is the daughter of a famous lawyer. I think that was the Diana that she was referring to.
Oh, that's that, right. But she take this young man and send him to school. He went to prep school. He did well in prep school, managed to get into Jamaica College. All right, almost a stellar student at the prep school setting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, managed to get into Jamaica College, and it was just all downhill from there. The context: 4 male students, 4 male children,
yes,
and a single mother.
Yes.
All right, that was the context.
That's an important distinction there in terms of males in how they are affected in this.
Right, 4 males. All right, and so I said that to say, yes, I believe there's a crisis. All right, when I speak with parents, and I've had the privilege of teaching in the US as well, so I've seen the same dynamic there. All right, the women with their best efforts sometimes it's just seemingly not enough. A lot of times, as you said, because there's no male, she has to be juggling the financial bit and the coming in to check on the homework, and just mere exhaustion alone, you know, prevent her from being there for the child and the children in the manner that she would want to be. And so what you end up with is young men being raised by, so in some instances, thugs. All right. With the absence of the mother. So, mommy, Virgin, why you come to school so late? I mean, and the mother said, but sir, you know, I prepared this stuff, but I have to go to work, but I have to reach work by 6 o'clock, by 7 o'clock in the morning. So I have to leave the house from early. And sometimes after she left, he just decides, so, well, you know, I'm just not going to go to school today. Or he turns up at school whenever time he feels like it.
Yes.
All right, because she just don't have enough. The time is just not there. Juggling the financial side of the work, trying to provide for them. She does not there to provide the kind of parental support that she would love to. All right, and if it's a case where you don't have the extended family to chip in, all right, then it makes a bad situation worse. So from that context, I would say yes, there's a crisis. Even I used to just talk about in terms of the social media. I personally, as a parent, I mean, another single parent, but as a parent personally, I believe that in this day and age, children have to be immersed in technology. All right, so I don't see no problem with technology. However, I will caution you have to have that balance. All right, so I don't think anybody should go to the extreme of cutting them off. I think the future belongs to those who can grasp and understand the technology. Well, there's no going back to the Stone Age. All right. But we just have to find ways of balance now. A lot of times, as parents, we are trying to catch up with the children in terms of using the technology. They are light years ahead of us. They are light years. And sometimes I'm playing a game. If I get stuck in the game, I call my 14-year-old and she'll get me across. Or even the 8-year-old, and she'll get me to the next level in the game. So it's here, but it's a case of how do we balance, and then with, again, the work, and understand the burden on the single players, because the work, you come in and you're exhausted, you're tired, just think about, okay, I'm going to prepare something for them to eat. It's just the easiest thing is to just let them go on the device.
Right.
All right. But there are things that But you have to find ways. I know, for example, my 8-year-old at her age, if she's going to install any app or anything of the sort, then I link her account to mine.
Right.
So anything she installs on her computer, I get a message from Google saying, okay, then Madison have access this program or that stuff, whatever the case might be. You know, so I just something that I understand. And as one sister said, sometimes I just take the device, go into the history. I don't know how many of us as parents know or go to YouTube library to see all they would have accessed 5 6 weeks ago to say I can do, but we just have to learn how to monitor them online. I have a daughter who is on, she's not Facebook. I think Facebook is for old people. But you do Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And I am on her list in terms of her contacts. So I can see her post. I can see what she's posting and all that kind of stuff on social media. So you don't want to cut them off, but we have to provide some amount of monitoring. And I do understand the stress level and the workload and everything. Sometimes it's easier, but if you can, there are ways and means that you can find to help to monitor. And some things you won't be able to do 100%. I said they are way more advanced. And so they might just try to trick something. And some of these things, we just have to use them as a teaching moments. Okay, so if my kids want to say, okay, they see homosexuality and whatever the case might be. So right there, you use it as an opportunity to teach. All right, I don't turn off the TV because there are two men there walking together. I mean, if you're going to that, you would never ever turn on the TV and they talk. All right, but you jump on the opportunity to teach them, okay, so what does the Bible say about this thing? Why is it wrong and that kind of stuff?
Right,
you know, so just have to capitalize on those teaching moments because we can't shield them from it 100%. We can't shield them from it 100%. It's there in the world. It's where the world is now. So there's no cutting them off from it 100%. But when it presents itself, you know, you just have to jump at the opportunity to educate them in terms of what the Bible said and why is it wrong and stuff like that, so that they are not just being fed what you know, society is giving to them.
That's so. And I can see. I mean, you practically. I mean, you are again not in a single parent situation, but I can imagine still that you have your hands full, of course, keeping up with the technology yourself, and of course, you know, just coping and getting your children through in an as normal a way as possible. I'm just trying to compare that now, of course, as you rightly pointed out, that you believe that there is in fact a crisis because the single mother now having to juggle work. Some of them, of course, don't have the skill set that you may have to be able to do this kind of a supervision. They're not there because they have to leave out early. And of course, you end up with those kind of kids in your school setting, So in that sense of the word, it does appear that there's a crisis. Rev, your comment on that before I ask, where do we, you know, how does church respond to this?
Well, that was the place that I was actually gonna go, because
right. Okay.
We were talking about it so much, and it described any home that is here in North America and other elsewhere. So having an overall view of the entire situation, it is only that what we do as a church. I am tired, and you have to forgive me, Rev, to vent publicly on your program, but I'm tired of church.
We're glad to provide the opportunity for you to vent, Rev.
But I'm tired of church talking about this situation, and they will go up and preach and criticize and tear down even the mother that is trying, and the sick is trying. We don't have a perfect society and what they call now a nuclear family. So serious aspect to it, because a church, we have to understand, as a church, a child may respond to us, and a parent may allow the child to come to church, but the parents is, whether one or two is a homosexual. In Jamaica that I had to deal with.
Yes.
One parent is a homosexual. So one parent says, you can go to church. But when they go to church, they hear their mother or father being lambasted for their sexuality. You understand? Is that the place to deal with it?
Right.
Don't must stop teaching the word of God that this is abomination. Don't get me wrong there, you know. But the forum that sometimes that we choose, that's where I think. And you know what Brother Andrew said, use it as a teachable moment.
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to go. I remember my daughter, 6-year-old, spell the word abortion and then turn to me after she pronounced it and said, Daddy, what does abortion mean? Now I have to have a conversation because I am the one that tell them that anytime you don't know a word, spell it, pronounce it, go to the dictionary. Anytime they ask me what's the mean, I always tell them, go to the dictionary. But now I'm on the road and she saw this at an abortion clinic, a ticketing line, and saw the word and she liked to spell, so she just spell it out and then she asked me. It becomes a terrible moment for me to talk about Dutch.
Yes.
And your Brother Andrew is coming from that. But now it comes, where does the church play a role in this? We're supposed to be a family-oriented community. These mothers only have 4 hours in terms of taking care of their child. The church is locked up. It's only open for prayer meeting. It's open for service. And in a crisis of a hurricane also, then it's opening its doors. Where is the program for those that are coming into the body of Christ? For us to protect, to keep safe. After school program, church is closed. And there are plenty of retirees and there are people not working and not capable of. A boys and girl program, after work, after school, homework.
Yes.
And so instead of just criticizing and that they can't raise their children and they can't do this, why not help provide resource? Why not help provide programs that can put in place for these young men to express themselves, whether on a basketball court or whether a scrimmage field or whether it be the instrument that you only play on a Sunday. Get a music teacher come in and, you know, and the music don't have to be all what we think is so consecrated and sanctified. Yeah, what I remember my kids, them use a term, I don't remember, but the musician from church, they would just come together and they would just have a jam session, just playing music. It don't have nothing to do with expressing no love to a woman, so it's a romanticized music. So the pastor have to pray the devil out of them. Or, you know, it have to be gospel. And so we are getting in spirit right here. No, they were just expressing themselves. So that's like, I don't remember if they call it closed barn here. And they just jam and they jam on.
Yes.
So they're on their skill, they improve themselves and it make them become more of a professional musician than just, you know, I'm saying, we started at Faith Chapel. A computer lab, if you remember. Why not open that computer lab, not just to the kids that are in the church, but the community, because not everybody in the community had a computer, access to a computer. So I'm saying, I don't want to be just in a conversation. I want to be a part of the solution.
That's all.
To the problem, not discussing the problem. We do that on talk show, Rev. Every, like you said, on Nationwide. And that's the program, and that's where they go to express themselves. But as a church, I think, especially I'm not going to call anybody, Rev. I, as a pastor, to proactive in the community that I serve.
That's all. And well, you know, and as you mentioned, the conversation, the truth is that, you know, the conversation has been going on outside of us, you know, as you say, with Nationwide and that. And I think sometimes we get the impression that why it's happening with them and this, so we're not even a part of the conversation ourselves. You know,
no,
we have not even been a part of the conversation to say, well, all right, listen, this is what we are doing at the church. You know, this is what we recommend. And of course, we continue along a kind of a spiritual line, and not recognizing that the same social issues that are out there, of course, are affecting the discipleship of children within church, and of course, the men within the church, and of course, the women as well. And so we need to have again, a faith response intentionally towards these issues that we are having, you know, raising in the conversation. So as to move forward, and as opposed to what we tend to do is just to kind of ignore it and just hope that the women are surviving, just hope that they figure out how to raise their children in an internet age, just hope that the men figure out how to adjust to their changing in their identity, and just keep on preaching, you know, heaven is on before and let us go. So, Sir Barnett, to your hand.
Yeah, I want to, you know, based on what Pastor Wang just said, you know, and in terms of the role of the church. And I remember where I grew up. I grew up in the Walton Park Road area. All right, same volatile community like elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a church there, and there was a pastor there, still a pastor there. And I loved his approach to church.
Mm.
I mean, as a pastor, and you're in an inner city community, church was never just about what goes on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. So you know all the young people in the community, male, female. I mean, when you get your report card, you get a copy of the report, so you see how you're doing in school.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I just started going to Faith Chapel, and I was filling out a form. I think I was filling out a form for my passport, a passport form.
Mm.
And it says you need an individual that knows you for a certain number of years. I said, well, I've been at Faith Chapel for probably about less than a year, maybe a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And this requires somebody that has known you for 5 years. I said, I can always go to this gentleman. This man has known me all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I know the family history, knows everything.
Yeah.
And I said, like Pastor Wang mentioned, I said that to say, we have to rethink church.
That's so.
All right. You have to rethink. Here's a gentleman who, if an individual is killed in the community tomorrow morning, first thing tomorrow morning, I assume that if it happens in the night when he's already gone, first thing tomorrow morning is the first one at that family's house. All right, he's at that family house. Now, some might argue and say, well, their doctrine is not the apostolic doctrine. All right, the persons can argue that as much as they want, but I can tell you, in that community, when those folks are ready, if and when they decide to go to church, that's where they're going.
That's right. It only makes sense.
That is where they're going because of the impact and how he treats with individuals in the community, or he treats with the families in the community. And so we have got to now get to the stage now where, you know, it shouldn't be just the single mother alone. It shouldn't just the single mother alone, but put in the programs, put in the systems in place where the students or young people, even if they have challenge at home, they can come. There's a safe space. All right, where they can come and express themselves, where the parents themselves can come and be supported. And it's not always a case of, boy, you can't control the daughter, that's you can't rule and you can't control the rude and bad. All right, they have to have systems and programs in place where individuals can get the help that they need, especially where young people, because some of them are crying or some of them are just bored, they want things to do, but everything we label as unholy and ungodly and that kind of stuff. But their needs are simply not being, their needs are not being met.
That's all.
All right. And then they're crying out for help. Sometimes they do things that are wrong. But how does the church respond to it? Do we label them as they are bad, them bad? All right, and you know, want to serve God and you know, we're gonna call a fast and pray for me. Maybe we could just enter a park and go and kick some football and that kind of stuff. You know, there's a place for that as well. Not saying that I'm gonna pray whatever the case may be, but there's a social side to them.
Right.
All right, and when those needs are not being met, they're gonna have issues, and the parents, the female parents, and some of them give so much. Some of them give so much time in church that they don't have time for the children. Maybe it's time for the person. All right, listen, we understand you now. We appreciate the effort and everything, but listen, you know, we're gonna remove you from this group and that group so you can spend more time at home with your son or with your daughter. You know, because some of them give so much time to church. All right, they hardly ever have time for the child. You You know, so I don't know. Are the rethinking, are the more balancing, and I think we can correct some of the challenges there, but we just have to rethink how we do church.
Yeah. But you know, the church again, I keep pointing out to my group, you know, church is community. Ecclesia means, you know, people together. And so, you know, the world, of course, is the larger community. You know, in sin, it's messing up. There really should be a community that is getting it right. You know, a community that is getting the balance right, a community that is, you know, getting where men are, you know, certainly identity, women and our children are being, you know, so in looking at the role of the church, you know, all that is coming out there, you know, Rev and Sir Andrew, again, is church not, you know, being a part of the conversation. This is the discipleship conversation. What does it mean, you know, for godly people? How would godly people then respond, you know, to the information age? How do godly people respond to, you know, to, again, female, you know, changing roles, etc., etc. So I think that we need to, as I said, look at church and begin to expand our conception of what church ought to be in order to effectively impact and evangelize our world. Yes, sir. Rev, I see your hand up.
Yes, Rev. I don't want to hog the program, believe me. But Brother Andrew said something that the church have to rethink. Mm-hmm. What really happened is not so much the church have to rethink it. The word gives us how the church should really run.
Right.
As the mission statement, first century church for our 21st generation. Mm-hmm. It's right there. The church was active in everybody's house. Mm-hmm. We went from house to house.
Yes.
All right. Culture change, things change, but relationship don't change. You love, you hate just the same from that time till now. Mm-hmm. And that's what the whole thing is about.
Yeah.
There's a male figure lacking in the home. The church have more than enough to provide right there.
Yes.
A big brother program for the kids, them that are at kids' age. Mm-hmm. A program in terms of for the teenager, in terms of looking, in terms of what they should be thinking of, in terms of what ambition they have and aspiration. In terms of feel that they will choose and how they will pursue it. Mm-hmm. All of these things the church can make provision, because that single mom might not be able to have all of that because she herself never fulfill her dream or her aspiration or ambition. Mm-hmm. No child, make sure that this child can fulfill, not become you, not fulfilling your dream and aspiration. Her dream or his dream and aspiration. But you have a program to bring the solution. Everything not about just us preaching, and it's not just about a soul. What about the body that house that soul? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we have to get out there. I want it to be in the area that I live in.
Yes.
Instead, you get that God call you there. Mm. And he sent me where he sent me. Mm-hmm. And when he sent me there, was I disappointed? No, because it's about souls.
Yes.
It don't have no color, it don't have no size, it don't have no value in terms of how rich or how poor you are, or how educated and uneducated you are. It's your soul. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't disappointed.
Yes.
It's just that in my mind, I'm working out that I can move faster, I can do this faster. Mm-hmm. But God show me that it don't work that way. You can stay right where you is, right down where you are, and you still can get it done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's so.
But as a church, we have to stop talk, and we have to stop make ourselves immune from certain things. Or think that we are immune, and not until it come home, then that is the time we say, my God, then when did this happen? Why sister never tell me about this? Oh, sister said, but sometimes the way we preach, they can't even approach us. The way we conduct ourselves, we isolate them because they think they come forward, they're going to contaminate us, or they're going to infect us to the point that, you know what, make him stay up there, me stay and watch him from here and, you know, listen. I go, I mean, and they can't open up themselves to you because they are not a part of their community.
Yes, that's so. That's
it. That's it, right?
Lady Celia, I see your hand up. I want to share.
Praise the Lord. Good evening, everyone.
Yes. God bless you, ma'am.
Just to comment, being a single mother now, when COVID came on, I was working and I have a business and having to balance 3 children. With everything, I had to put some things on the back burner and try to make a informed decision, what is best for me and the children. Losing the job, trying to create income, it became more difficult.
Yes.
But there are a lot of things that kept me, and most importantly, just hearing Pastor Wang speaking, the love of God, and just believing and holding on to the legacy that my parents had. My father always said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that stayed with me.
Yes.
That stayed with me. And regardless of what the difficulties that I have been going through and have gone through, I can remember them walking in the streets back in the days, helping people and experiencing that kind of love. I want to share that with my children, even though the father is not present.
Yes.
What my father taught me and how he taught us to love other people and to love God. That stays with me.
Yes.
Through receiving the Holy Spirit at a young age, so I try to make the same stand for the children and just to keep them rooted and grounded. Yes. It is not easy. It's not magic. It's not magic. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
Because I have the tablets and the things to compete with, but I have to set standards. I have to set boundaries. I have to set a routine.
Yes.
Morning and afternoon, and sometimes I can't catch all of them all at once.
Yes.
I have to sometimes based on the personality. I have to catch the bigger one because the older one is a boy, you know, and I have to catch him at a certain time to pray with him and stuff like that. I'm not a perfect person, but I know I experience the love of God, and I want my children to have that and hold on to that. Because no matter what is happening, because we're in a serious time and what we are going through, that is what, if we can't get to go to church, that is what I use to motivate them and keep them, because I love them and I want them to understand that it's this that is keeping me. This is what has kept me over the years, because of that foundation, that house to house, that hands-on approach, where we reach people and touch people's hearts. We share with families everything that we had, things that we had, you know, we share. That stayed with me. So that is my approach in coping now in this time as a single mother of 3 children, and just trying to keep the legacy going. It's not easy.
That's so, and it's truth, and this is not, and again, it's really, this is not God's model. This is not it. In terms of how you are dealing with now, and of course, you're clearly pointing out the difficulty of doing it this way. But again, where is the community that really, that support that the community of the church should be in place to provide with you as a single parent during this time? Because of course, in the opportunity that you had, you were sharing and giving the support to community in that way. So is there a blind eye being given again to women like yourself in this particular situation. I know you basically have to go it on your own, as if there is no community that is really, there for you and to provide that kind of a support. So I think that's really where we need to go. We need to recognize that these issues are affecting the body of Christ. There is, in fact, a model that God has to help us to, again, to cope with this thing, again, to doing life together so that we can actually get the result that we're looking. We want to see saints learning to love their neighbors as ourselves, and, to be actively involved in giving, etc. But we can't ignore these issues in the process, and we have to engage them and provide real model solutions to them. And I hope that this is what the takeaway from this conversation is, that at least now, even here, this is the church having these conversations and recognizing the issues, and at least having an inclination as to, okay, where do we go from here? How does church respond? We respond, of course, by being creative with, social type programs that respond to the needs of men, because men's needs are unique, are different from men, different from women, programs that respond to the needs of women, being burdened with both work and child. How can the church respond? Programs that respond to these things. And of course, generally just not ignoring the issues, and being intentional towards getting God's will when it comes to, again, responding to technology, responding to it changing in gender roles that are changing, responding to the increase in knowledge, etc., etc. So I think it was good to have been in this conversation. I thank you all. I don't know if anybody has any closing comments on this issue.
Rev,
yes, Rev.
I don't know if anybody on the program have any tablet.
Okay.
That is for the child, not for the adults or parents, but for child. I can make it available to you.
Okay.
Any school supply that they may need, or knapsack that they may need to go to school. If there's a need, I can fulfill that. If you just get the amount or person and you let me know, I will make arrangement with you to pick it up from the house.
I am glad you said that, Rev, because there definitely is a need for that, and I will send it. Fortunately, we're a small group, so it won't be a long list. Only a couple that I can immediately think of. So I'm appreciative of that effort, Rev, and we'll be in touch on that one. And of course, the rest of the group has heard your invitation. So feel free to connect with me, and then send that forward to you, Rev. All right, folks. God bless you. Please.
Okay. I want to speak to you off the air.
Okay. All right, folks. Feel free to open your mics and just bless somebody before we go this evening. God bless you for sharing. I think it was edifying, and we look forward to having, moving to the next step with this particular conversation, finding real ways to provide support, to members within our church community on these issues with the gender issue, the male, female, our single mothers, going through the struggle. How can we help to relieve them as a community, and how can we get the church to look like a community that is responding with God's model for these issues that we are being discipled in today. So go open your mics and just greet somebody in Jesus' name before we close out tonight.
Good night, everyone. Have a blessed night.
Amen. God bless you, Lady Mel.
God bless you all.
Yes, God bless you, Lady Celia, Lady Sherian. God bless you.
Take care.
Okay. Sir Andrew, God bless you. Take care. Good to have you with us as usual in the session. That's it. So let me close out here. And then I'm gonna call you back, Rev. God bless
okay.
you, Lady Shan, as well. Sir Finn, if that's you, then I was you. God bless you, sir. Hope the conversation was edifying.